Hello, everybody.
Hi.
We are actually live. I'm Martina.
I'm Elicia.
And this is the SOMOS Fun Club. We are back from a two-week hiatus. Or 1 week hiatus. We missed a week, but it's been 2 weeks since we had a session. So is that a 2 week hiatus or a 1 week hiatus?
I guess it's a 1 week because I don't know. And are we stay at home or are we summer now? I don't know about you, but I'm getting full on summer, which feels really nice. I had a sunburn. That was great.
Oh gosh, I also got my first sunburn. Wait a second. Did you get your sunburn last week while you were on vacation?
I did, and it was totally worth it.
Oh yeah, I agree. Me too. I actually got it. My brother and sister-in-law made a giant slip and slide. They took the black plastic that my family farm uses to cover the bunk silos with the cow food, and they put it on their hill, and we had a giant redneck slip and slide for me and the kids. So that was fun. I got my sunburn.
Wow, that's awesome. So y'all, we are super happy to be here today. And things are weird in the world, right? And we want to talk today about story asking. Mm-hmm. And we're going to really limit what we're talking about. So this collaboration group is particularly focused on using the SOMOS or New SOM or the New Latin. How do we say it?
SOMOS?
SOMOS?
I actually don't know how to pronounce it, but
I think it's SOMOS, and we just
okay.
John Bracey, if you're watching, hi, you can please correct me. And any other Latin teachers, you are welcome. All are welcome here. This presentation is in English because we want to make sure everybody is with us. This collaboration group is not focused on distance teaching, but we recognize that for many of us returning to the classroom in the fall, there will be one or many components of distance teaching, and it's not emergency remote anymore. So our goal is to give you guys some actual things that you can do. Oh, John just corrected me. It's SOMOS. Thank you, dear.
Oh, gosh. Okay, thanks, John.
Now we know. We are going to be looking at one thing today, and not even the whole thing. We're looking at story asking, and we'll explain what it is and provide you some resources, lots and lots of resources, and then look at how to reframe what you might traditionally do with story asking to a computer synchronous Zoom or Google Meet environment. Okay?
I say okay. And maybe before we get started, one thing that's really important to us, we want to make sure that no matter who you are, no matter what you're teaching, no matter what your teaching context is, you belong here. We've got support for you. And so drop a note in the comments. So we're not going to assume anything. We're going to start, like Elicia said, explaining what story asking is. So that's going to be a refresher course for some of you. It'll be new information for others. But in the comments, just drop a note. I know a lot of school districts gave notification in this last week about a solid initial plan for the fall. So if you know what you're going back to in the fall, if you have a plan, whether you're going back full time, or if you're going back on like an AAB rotation, or if you're going to be full virtual, just drop a note in the comments and let us know what you're looking at for the fall, because that helps us know, how we can best be supporting you guys.
Awesome. It's a joy to see so many familiar faces. And so I'm Elicia. Again, I'm the director of training for the Comprehensible Classroom, a job that I started a little over 15 days ago. So I'm really excited to be here to share this with you. And of course, I'm with Martina Beck, the creator and writer for the Comprehensible Classroom and of the SOMOS curriculum.
Yeah.
So that
we are the team, and to all of everything that you're going to be seeing today, this is totally you are just going to see why Elicia is our director for training. She's amazing. She previewed some of this for me yesterday, and it is so practical and useful, and I'm so excited about it. So this is all Elicia, everything that you see today.
Also stolen from lots of really smart teachers who I collaborate with.
Yes.
So I'm going to share with you guys a framework right now, and I can't see comments at the moment. While I'm sharing the screen, it's very awkward. So Martina will hopefully cut in.
Yeah, so I'll take up with it. Right now, everybody's jumping in and saying what they're looking at. So it seems like a lot of people are still waiting on info. A lot of people have an initial plan, and a lot of people have a lot of different plans. So the great thing is that no matter what you're going back to, language acquisition remains the same. No matter how your students are going to be learning, no matter how you're going to be teaching, language acquisition is one constant. And that's like really refreshing. Like because we know that, we know what we have to do. We just have to figure out how to do it. So Elicia, how is language acquired?
So I want to start with our framework, and that is language is not built up from practice, but from consistent and constant comprehensible input. And input is any language that goes in the student's head through their eyes or through their ears. And comprehensible means that they understand every single word. So that's where we're starting with. They need to understand everything that we say. So as we go through, I'm framing everything in as I'm talking, as I'm thinking this through, how am I going to make sure that I am helping my students understand every single thing? What tools can I use that I don't have in the classroom that I do have in an online format? What tools am I used to relying on that I can't use anymore? And what changes do I need to make to keep myself sane and keep it easy for the kids? This is how I started to frame story asking for at the end of last year, and I feel like I had a lot of success with it.
Elicia, I'm going to jump in really quick. I don't know if I'm guessing that this is not your last slide, but based on what your next slide. But just, I want to pause on that and talk about like why it is so important that language is comprehensible. And so why is it so important that we figure out how to adapt these tools that you've been using in the classroom to make language comprehensible for students? And, you know, we say, well, that's how language acquisition happens, but what's really going on in a student's brain? And what happens when a student receives input, so when they read something or when they listen to something, their brain starts to attempt to process it. And what it's trying to do is it's trying to link the forms contained within that language to meaning. And if it can create that link, so if it's like if it receives a form and it can attach it to meaning, then that language can be processed and it can be applied to the students developing mental representation of language, which is the language that lives inside their heads, like their version of the language that's developing within their head, and then they're able to draw on that mental representation for output. If their brain attempts to process it and can't link some of the forms contained within the language to meaning, those forms get dumped and they're not applied to the student's mental representation of language, and they're really just useless in terms of language acquisition. So students would need more exposure until that link can be created. So that's why it's so critical that students understand what we're saying, because we're helping their brains to process it, and that processing is needed for it to be applied to their mental representation of language, which is needed for output.
Awesome. Yes. All that. So basically, we have to speak so that they understand in order for their brains to pick up the language and use it.
Plus, we want to make it fun, and that's where story asking comes in.
And story asking is the most fun and also the most intimidating. And I recognize how hard it can be, but it is truly a ball. So let me give you some definitions. So TPRS is often Blaine Ray invented TPRS based on the works of Dr. James Asher. TPRS stands for Teaching Proficiency Through Reading and Storytelling. And there's several steps of TPRS. We're going to focus on the second one, which is ask a story. So story asking is literally co-creating a story with a class. And I'm going to break it down even further for you. Okay.
And I want to jump in though and say, so I think that TPRS sometimes, I mean, it does seem super intimidating. And obviously when you're with a class and there's a lot of different voices that are trying to co-create something with you, it can get a little bit complicated, but I think that it's a myth. It's not true that it's not natural. I think some people feel like it's very unnatural, but this is something that I do with my own kids, like every night. We have this skunk that lives around our house and a raccoon, and the skunk is Stinky Ronald and the raccoon is George Cooney. And like every night before bed, me and the kids make up Stinky Ronald and George Cooney stories, and we say we'll say, oh, Stinky Ronald was walking around the house and what did he see? And the kids will say, he saw a pizza. And I said, yes, he saw a pizza. And so like we are co-creating a story. It's such a natural thing, and like what an awesome activity to be able to do with our students. So we love it.
We love it so much. And I totally did the same thing yesterday with a visitor. I had a friend's kid and I walked to the park, social distancing, and made up a story about the dogs at the park that we saw.
There
and
you go.
It was just delightful.
Yeah.
My husband and I do it all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love George Cooney. That is hilarious.
Yeah, that was my husband.
So let's talk a little bit about what it means to co-create or ask a story. So the first piece is that the teacher has a secret outline. Sometimes this is
love the secrets.
A script. And my Facebook feed is totally frozen, so I can't see any comments. I'm really sorry.
That's okay. It's good.
So the teacher has this secret outline, and you can see this is an outline from SOMOS 1, Unit 2. And some of the words are underlined, some are bolded, and some are just there. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Okay. So the first thing is you have a secret outline. You kind of know more or less as the teacher what is going to happen. Now, there are lots of teachers who don't have a secret outline. They just go with it, and that's awesome. But for the rest of us humans, I need a secret outline, and that's okay. The next part of story asking is that the teacher asks questions to add personalized, interesting details to the story. Mm-hmm. So let me explain what that means. Oh, go ahead, Martina.
I was going to say, Kathy Griffith said that she feels like we have a gift for getting interesting information into the story, but she has a hard time with that. So, so as we're talking about like these personalized things, we'll make sure that we give you guys some tips for how can you get started with that, like making interesting stories, I guess.
Absolutely. And we actually did a whole long form web fun club last summer with all kinds of resources on how do you actually elicit details from your students, with tons of resources and all kinds of things. It's not focused on an online environment. So that's where we're kind of changing that piece. So we're really looking at how we're taking story asking and moving it to an online environment. I tried to drop in the comments a link to some of our other story asking resources, but the formatting is all weird. So I'll come back to that, and it'll definitely be posted with the resources.
Elicia, Marissa just asked or said that she really loves story asking and her struggle is always classroom management. Would you say that classroom management, I don't know your answer to this, would you say that classroom management is easier when you're doing it virtually?
Oh gosh.
Or is it just different?
I'd say it's just different. I feel like I have to let go of what I believe classroom management is and what it looks like, and just go with the flow, because I cannot control, first of all, I can't control another person. Yeah. Even in my classroom, I cannot control them. I can help them find tools to control themselves. Mm-hmm. But it's even more so when they're at their house or in a car in the parking lot trying to log on. Like I can't help them other than to make the content personalized, compelling, fun, safe, and community oriented. So that's what I can do.
Yeah.
It does look different.
Okay, and we'll share, Marissa and everybody else that's jumping in about classroom management, we'll share some tips with how we manage story asking. And again, we had a video from last summer's SOMOS Fun Club with information about that. So we'll make sure to connect you with those resources. I'm gonna send out, there's a link that I'll add at the end of this. There's also another post in the group with it that has, it's a landing page. So I think it's Fun Club July or July Fun Club. It's a bit.ly. But if you put your email in that, I will send you an email with all of the resources that we're sharing in this Fun Club. So don't stress about like making note of them all right now. I will send them to you.
Awesome. Oh my goodness. I have so many windows open. I've totally lost track of the one I wanted. Okay.
Sorry. Okay.
That's okay.
Tell me when I've got to spotlight your video. That's
not
important thing.
Yet.
Okay.
Okay, so here is an example of a script. And what you see in red are underlined words. These are details that you personalize. So in this script, there is a person who is an intelligent girl, okay? The name of the person is totally irrelevant. That is a detail that can come from your family, from your community. In Martina's case, it's George Cooney, right? So it becomes about a person that your class agrees on. This person is a student at a school. I've had everything from, I don't know, the unicorn school to University of the Moon to the school that I teach at in this story. And that personalizes it and helps us contextualize it for our community. And I think that's really, really important because a lot of people say, I want to bring in different perspectives. I want to really teach culture. And we want to support you in that. And also remember that culture starts with the people in the room with you. Mm-hmm. And talking about hard things starts with talking about the kind of stories that you want. So an example in this story, it says, so-and-so, Charlotte is a very intelligent girl. I changed that to make her hardworking and kind, because that's the kind of story I want to tell in my classroom.
Elicia has an awesome list of diversity positive adjectives from Elevate Education Consulting, Anna Gilcher and Rochelle Adams. Yours is adapted a little bit, I think, but maybe it started, am I correct that started?
It's the same one.
Oh, it's the same one.
Same one. I just blew it up and put it on my wall.
Okay, and that is an amazing resource for when you're trying to think of adjectives for describing your students. Like I love how you phrase that are the kind of story that you want to tell. And actually, and one thing I've been noticing a lot, I've always used the adjective inteligente because it's so easy and it's such an easy cognate for students to recognize. And now whenever I see it, I kind of, especially when I use no es inteligente, is not intelligent. That's something that I've really been learning about is, what are the subliminal messages, not even subliminal, just the subtle messages that I'm sending with my students as I choose, as I offer them options of adjectives to use to describe people.
I see lots of people wanting that list of adjectives. I'll pop it in. I literally have so many windows open right now that I'm never going to get back to the one that I want.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of people putting your emails in the comments. Friends.
Don't put your emails in the comments.
Don't do that.
There's a landing page. Samantha Brummagem is going to put the link in there. We'll also post it at the end. So put your email address in the landing page link, and then also for that list of adjectives, Elicia will add that to the email that we send out to make sure everybody gets it.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need to request anything. You'll get all the things.
As long as you put your email in, we'll send all of the things out. and a link so you can watch this again if you need to go. Okay.
Yes.
Because we know that everybody has different times and maybe you don't want to sit for an hour and watch us talk. I totally respect that.
Totally.
Okay. So back to our script, which is something that you're really it's intended to personalize and come from you and the students. Now, this is where I make a little tweak. I don't open up all the details when I do it online because it's harder. It's harder to draw. And one big change that I made when I started story asking in a virtual environment is that I started drawing the story more. And I will show you guys what I mean. Okay.
So Elicia, really quick. So you're saying that when you do story asking in a virtual environment, you fix more of the details ahead of time, like you tell more things as fact and ask. So students are asking or co-creating fewer pieces of the story.
And that's really because I'm not a great illustrator. And what I found is that when I illustrate it went a lot better than when I just verbally told it.
And when you're trying to illustrate something on the fly, it always ends up looking phallic.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There is that, right? A fishing rod. Who knew?
Literally anything. Yeah. So plan ahead. Yeah, I like that. That's a good tip.
Okay, if you're watching, we're going to take a little brain break. This is manos contrarias. I don't need contrary hands. So one hand up and down, other hand side to side. Come on, Martina.
Well, no, hold on. I'm looking at the Facebook feed and it's a delay. So I can't see what you're, okay, wait. One
hand
down.
Up and down and the other hand side to side. This is a really simple, try not to make
am I supposed to?
No, don't diagonal it. So start one.
They're synchronized?
You can synchronize them or not.
I'm doing a double beat. I don't know what I'm doing.
And there's a really fast brain break because, we all need more brain breaks, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really important. And those are so important for classes. And I think a lot of teachers this fall in emergency remote teaching, as you've called it, which I think is so fitting, they had like 20-minute classes. They weren't doing full length live classes, but now as we're moving into more formal, people are looking at full 45, 60-minute classes, which is just brutal.
Yep. So brain breaks are your friend. And you know what? If a kid chooses not to do it in a virtual environment, that's fine. I don't know if y'all are doing it at home. I can't see you. I'm seeing if Martina does it, and I'm totally shaming her.
I can see you.
All right. So the other very important part of TPRS story asking is that the teacher asks processing questions to make sure students understand. Okay. Sometimes if you have been to a TPRS training, they call these circling questions. I prefer the term processing questions. And this is basically saying, is there a girl or is there a boy? Is the girl's name Charlotte or is the girl's name Martina? It's just asking very simple questions to give processing time and confirm meaning.
And these are questions, Elicia, that about facts that have already been established. So this isn't where you're having your students share details, co-create stories. This is like, I've made a statement and now I want to make sure that I want to help students understand it and process it. So I'm going to ask these questions about it until the light bulb goes off.
And we did a whole episode on asking processing questions. So rather than go in deep, search for the hashtag Stay at Home Fun Club and look for processing questions. And I'm going to pop a link into the comments right now. Two
things. Colleen asked if you have students keep their mics on, and we talked about that last week. It was 2 weeks ago in our last episode. And Elicia, what is your answer to that? Do you have students keep your mics on?
I do have them keep their mics on. I have them self-manage with the preference being keep your mics on, unmute.
And that's because it makes it so much easier for them to participate.
Mm-hmm.
So even though standard practices, not really for this, it's good to train students to have a quiet environment and have their mics on.
So I see a question, where does the vocabulary that they're using come from? Well, in this particular case, it's coming from the SOMOS curriculum from the unit. So I'm going to go back to the script. You see the bold words. Kamina means walks and ve means sees. Those are the core vocabulary for this unit. There's 3 words, and these build on the core vocabulary from the last unit.
Can I interrupt you?
Yes.
So back to the processing questions. Again, I want to point out that this is a totally natural thing. It's a communicative technique. It is not specific to story asking. Again, this is something that I do with my kids. Like if we're listening, we've been listening to Where the Red Fern Grows, and the audiobook. And when something happens in the story that I'm like, oh, that was maybe a subtle clue, or that was a lot of things really fast, I pause it and I ask my kids processing questions to help draw their attention to different things, to help them understand what they're hearing. So this is something that we do in conversation. It's something that we do with children, with adults. And so doing it in the classroom really is natural. It just takes intention.
Excellent. Yes. Sorry, just responding to a comment. So going back to, let me pause, because I'm seeing a lot of questions about a lot of things. We're going to get to some of them. We're not necessarily going to get to everything, because we're really trying to just talk about thinking about story asking.
Yes.
And getting ready to ask a story. Yeah. Next week, we'll demonstrate actually asking it. And something else that's really important that I'd like for everyone to remember is that this is in the SOMOS unit sequence. This is usually day 2 or 3. You have already established meaning for the core vocabulary. So students already know what, in this case, walks, runs, and sees means. And they've already interacted with it in a few times.
And some teachers prefer to establish meaning for vocabulary, meaning make sure their students understand what core vocabulary words mean as they come up in the story. In the SOMOS curriculum, though, you can do it however you want, but the way that it's written in the suggested lesson plans is to have it a separate step ahead of time, where you tell students in their common language what the words mean. Images, if your students don't have a common language, images can be useful, gestures. But if your students do have a common language, we recommend telling them what the important words for the story mean in that common language, so that everyone is on the same page.
I also see somebody who has had a question. So I can't do this synchronously. I'm not allowed to do any synchronous teaching. There are some options for asynchronous. There's something called a Storybuilder, and we're creating more of those from SOMOS. Right now, there's one for free on Teachers Pay Teachers that I think you can just look at Storybuilder, and it's for Unit 6, and it's awesome. And you could also do story listening, which I see somebody suggesting. So there are a lot of other ways. You could try to get suggestions ahead of time and choose the best ones and tell a story off of their suggestions. There's a bunch of different pieces. Just a reminder, don't leave your email in the comments for your own privacy and security. Even though this is a closed group, it's probably not a great idea. There is a landing page, and Sam is posting them. And go to that to leave your email. And also just check back, because I will post all of the resources probably later today or tomorrow.
Yeah, so anything that we reference, don't worry about trying to look for it now. We will gather it together. We will send it to you. The only thing you need to make sure that you do is get your email address in the landing page. If you're already on our mailing list, you'll get the email, so don't sweat. But if you're not already on our mailing list, then make sure that you put your email address in the landing page link that Samantha Brummagem is sharing. But yes, we are talking specifically about story asking for synchronous lessons. There are a lot of different ideas, like Elicia said, for asynchronous story asking or story sharing. In the SOMOS Flex plans, we have released some of those, but there's more. So we will share out ideas for that as well. But today we're specifically talking about synchronous story asking. And we are also not talking about activities for stories. That would be a whole different episode. Today, we just wanted to talk about what is story asking, why we're doing it, and then we are going to show you Elicia's amazing tricks.
All right, so this is kind of my really keeping it simple. Find a story. So if you're using the SOMOS curriculum, I strongly recommend that, especially if you're new to asking stories, use the script. I have one in front of me. Like, I print it out and have it in front of me, even now when I'm on a bunch of different screens. So find your story, simplify your story. And the reason I choose to simplify it is because I want to practice drawing the key elements of the story. And I need to know what I am going to be able to draw and what I'm not going to be able to draw. So here is my notebook. This is me practicing some sort of icon images for the story that we're going to start today. Super, super simple. But I know that I can't draw certain things, or if I do, it's going to end up looking phallic. So I need to be really careful as I simplify to think about how I'm going to draw it. This is how I do story asking synchronously over Zoom or Google Meet. This is not how I do it in my classroom. I have tons and tons and tons of resources and videos for how I do it in my classroom. Okay. And
so one difference.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So one difference is in the classroom, you use actors to act out the story so that students have a visual. But in Zoom, when you're doing synchronous story asking in the virtual space, you don't have actors. And so the way that you're giving them that visual support is by drawing the story as you're asking it. And am I understanding that correctly?
Exactly. Okay. And I saw that somebody had a question about where do you write the vocabulary? I'm going to show you that. Are you guys ready?
So cool.
Okay.
I'm ready.
So let me do
time for me?
one more thing. This is
okay.
Not yet. Not yet. Okay. This is a really important decision. Are you going to use if you choose to draw, which I strongly recommend you do so you can give that visual support, decide, are you going to do it as a camera? Like you can set up your iPhone or an iPad as a camera, just Google it and join your own Zoom meeting and draw along. That works fantastically well.
I'm just going to clarify that. So what Elicia is saying is that you can join your own Zoom meeting as two people, the one where you're face-to-face with your students like this. And then if I've got my phone, I can join as another person, but I could have this, the camera pointed at my desk so that I can be drawing and it'll be shown on this. And you can spotlight this video too, so that students are focused on that.
Absolutely. And honestly, the best way to tell you how to do it is to Google it, because it might be different for your device and you kind of need to play around with it, but it is very low tech. Or you can make a slide and put up a whiteboard. And that is what I'm going to show you. So Martina, why don't you check comments while you spotlight me and I switch.
This is the moment I've been waiting for.
She's so excited about it. It's kind of adorable.
Okay, so it should be now that you can hear my voice, but you will never see me. You will only see Elicia, if I did that correctly.
Okay, hopefully. And okay, here we are, guys. This is my slide. So I created this. It's super, super easy to do. I made a Google slide. I Googled what are the dimensions to create a Zoom background, and I will pop those in the comments. And I also found how to do it for Google Meet. You do need to use Chrome and you need to add an extension, but you can do it. So I'm going to pop that in the comments right now.
She's going to pop it in the comments and we'll send it out to you. So don't stress if this is like a lot really fast. We will send it all to you written out. You can Google it yourself and we'll send you the resources that we're using. So don't sweat it. Just enjoy.
So I feel like a news presenter because I also have so many windows I can't actually see what I'm pointing at, but I have our core vocabulary here. Notice that I have it written in L1. And the reason in blue, I have the definitions, and that's because I want to make sure that students understand everything. In my classroom, if you saw my virtual classroom tour, you saw that my walls are covered with words that are supports. I had to really narrow it down to these words and these words. And then I have some secret words that I've kept off the screen so it slows me down.
Okay. Right? Okay, wait.
I'm pausing.
So I have a question. First of all, about this slide, before we go back to talking what's on it, does this only work if you have like the solid background, the green screen background? Is that required, or can you do it without that?
It's not required. It is smoother if you have the green background. Tip,
okay, so
go to the dollar store and get a green plastic tablecloth and pin it behind you. It's $1.
Okay. So give yourself, create some kind of a green background. You literally painted a wall in your house green.
I did.
But you're hardcore.
I needed a project that day real bad. That's really what it is.
Yeah. So if you get a green background, even a tablecloth from the dollar store, get that behind you. It will help this background when you put up a background slide for it to appear fully. And it, like you can see around Alicia's hair, it's kind of pixelated. That'll be worse if you've got a background with lots of stuff on it. So get that solid.
Totally do it. You totally don't need a green background. You'll just be a little more pixelated, and that's okay too. Like, yeah, it's fine. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's teaching, right? We do our best with what we have. You don't need to go buy anything. You don't need to paint anything. Just do, and you'll be fine. Okay.
Okay. So to recap, you have a green background, which isn't necessary. You created this slide just in Google Slides, and then you set it as the virtual background in Zoom. And if you have Google Meets, there is a way to do it. With Zoom, obviously, there's a way to do it. I'm not sure about Teams, but I assume so. We will send out that information to you. We're not going to talk about the technical, how do you do that? We'll send you a walkthrough for how you do that if we've got your email in the landing page, not in the comments, but in the landing page. Karen wants to know if you're standing up.
I am, because I did this webinar as part of CISOS, sponsored by Fluency Fast, where Diane Neubauer, who's a brilliant teacher who's been teaching online for a long time, talked about how she doesn't sit when she teaches, so why would she sit when she's teaching remotely? And the next day, I bought a standing desk and rearranged my office so that I could stand, because to me, that was a really huge, that was a game changer for me.
Yeah. Okay, so oh, sorry. I'm not talking now.
Right, she's not supposed to be talking, guys, because we pinned me. So what was your question though, Martina?
Oh, my question was, okay, so the reason that you chose the words that you have on this slide is because you were trying to recreate what you have in the classroom. So in the classroom, you've got your core vocabulary for the story. You always put that up for the story. And then you have some common storytelling words, and that's what we see along the top. And then you said you also in your physical classroom, you have a lot of other words like question words and stuff, and you strategically chose to not put them on there because you have them somewhere else.
I have them somewhere else, and I looked at this slide and I thought, wow, that is a lot and busy.
Yeah.
And the colors that I chose are very poppy, which was intentional, But for me, that's about as many words as I can deal with pointing to. And I know for myself, in general, those are the words I'm probably going to use for this particular story. So the core structures, the core vocabulary is from the SOMOS unit. And then these common storytelling words are words that I know that I will use because those are the words that come up most often in every version of this story. We do have a list of common storytelling words that you can print out as posters, and that is being reformatted as like one-pagers. I'm not sure if that's done yet, but it is in the process. So Diane Neubauer literally just holds up a piece of paper with the words, which I love too. I wanted this to give myself a little bit more structure.
I like it. I think it's perfect. And I think having the different fonts and the different, like you have the gray background at the top and then the white, it makes the core vocabulary words pop. And then the other words, I think that they can be white noise, but they're there for you to draw attention to when they're needed. So I think it's so smart.
Thanks.
I love the choices you've made.
Okay, and then, so other questions about this piece?
Someone had a question about how easy it is to switch between slides.
Oh, it's super easy as long as you have them loaded up. So I can very quickly go into my video, choose virtual background, and switch it to here. And then, oh, I want to go back to Lake Powell, so I'm going to switch it to here. Oh, I want to go to Chile, so I switch it to here. And that's how fast it goes. Like, it's really fast. I have already preloaded those backgrounds in, but that takes 0 seconds. It's just uploading into Zoom.
Okay, it looks like Mandy has found some resources for doing virtual backgrounds with Teams, and so we'll make sure to share those out again. Also, Rachel was wondering if these slides are available with the curriculum. They're not, but we're going to send out to you an editable template that you can work with if your email address is in that landing page. Quick questions. People are wondering about what standing desk you have. People are wondering if you have, if you're using a phone mount to record yourself, or if you are using your computer or laptop camera.
Okay, so a standing desk, I have a really small office, like it's like 8 by 10. So I found one that has a tiny footprint. I just looked on the internet for standing desks on wheels and then measured them. So this one is, okay, y'all are gonna like get dizzy maybe, but it's like really, you can probably not even see it very well, but it's nothing special. And it was like $50 from Home Depot.
Awesome.
No big deal. I am using my Zoom camera, but you can do this with WebEx. You can do this with Google Meet. We're just using Zoom because that's the platform that works the most best with the Facebook. What other questions?
Okay, one other question is, oh shoot, I just forgot it already. It's gone. Oh well, that's okay. It'll come back up.
All right.
Oh, I know what it was. So Marissa had asked if you said that you can't see what you're pointing to, but you can, right? It's just you have a lot of windows open right now, right? Like it's kind of like a weatherman. Like you can.
No, it's very much a weatherman. So if I in my brain, it's right there, but it's actually there. Because what I'm actually pointing to, hang on, let me change my video and you'll see what, nope, not that, choose virtual background. That's what I'm pointing to. Oh, you can't see it, sorry. Hang on, again, that's what I'm pointing to.
Okay.
But so if I switch, I can see it on my screen, but I can't see it on behind me. Does that make sense? So it's like a weatherman who has to know, or a weather person who has to know what they're pointing at.
And the direction things gets a little funny because Yeah, but you can if you're looking at your screen.
If I'm looking at my screen.
And then again, guys, we will send out some tutorials for how to do this. I think what would be really helpful, actually, Alicia, I was thinking, I don't know how we can organize this, but I think that if we could maybe facilitate people getting some little practice groups together, so that they could practice doing this with other teachers before the fall, that might be something that's really helpful.
Absolutely.
We can coordinate that.
My dear husband has been my test assistant for like a million things. Luckily, he's a tester, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we have about 15 minutes.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
And what I'd like, so, there is one question. Do you have to change the reverse or the mirror? If I did, I would die because I'm super, super dyslexic and it's directional. So no. You don't have to mirror anything. I just have to get used to the fact that if I put this arm out, this is where we are, and it didn't take me too long to get used to it. Do I keep this slide for the whole story? Yes.
Because what's the one piece we haven't seen yet? I don't know if it's time for that or not yet.
I think it's time for that.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
And oh man, I moved my desk. I had it all organized and then I moved my desk.
Oh gosh, I mean, look, all these, Chris is asking the leading question. He said, how do you show your drawings and keywords at the same time?
So if I'm doing it like this with the Zoom background, here we are, class, there is a girl. I would like you to, in the Facebook chat, suggest a name for this girl. I'm going to do this in English right now.
So wait,
there is a girl.
Can you just tell us what you just did? You have an actual physical whiteboard.
Oh yeah, this is just
you hung up on your wall. Like you've got nails, you've got a spot for it, and you popped it right up there. And because it's not a green background, now the camera is picking that up.
Exactly. Because this is white, the same way that green doesn't pick me up.
Lala, Lolita, Clarice, Betsy.
Sochi, I saw Sochi. Okay, there is a girl named, Sochi. Oh, and you know what? In my classroom, I want to be inclusive. So it would be really, really easy to make my girl with a dress and like this. But my niece is actually named Sochi, and Sochi is non-binary. In our story, this person is a girl. But I want to recognize that there are girls with short hair like me. So I'm going to make sure that Sochi has short hair because there's no reason a girl has to have long hair. But I'm going to give her a smile. So there's a girl named Sochi.
Oh, one interruption, Elicia. So you asked us to put, because we're interacting with our quote unquote students in Facebook comments, but you would ask your students, how would you get that detail from them? So you said, what is this girl's name?
I would have them type it in the chat in general. And the reason I like the chat is because it's in Zoom or Google Meet or WebEx,
whatever it is you're using.
Whatever it is. I would just have them, I might, if I had a small class, I maybe would have them shout it out. But with this view with Zoom, I honestly can't see them raise their hands. I'm just juggling so many things. So if all I have to actually juggle is the chat, that's way easier.
Ooh, what dimension whiteboard do you have there?
I have no idea. It's like arm long by 2 arms. I mean, it's like 3 by 2 by 3, I bet. It's one that I've had for a decade, but I've done it with a much smaller one and a much bigger one. So this just happens to be the one that fit my space. Why not use Zoom or Meet's whiteboard feature? Because they're really hard to draw. They're really hard to draw, and I tried, and it was a total disaster. So I see somebody asked another question about the video being reversed. That is a setting. And I'm not sure, for me on my Zoom setting, I click not mirror. So I make sure that mirror isn't set in my video settings. I don't know Google Meets or WebEx well enough. I think WebEx is the same thing, but I just turn off the mirroring function. If I mirrored it, I would die. If you have multiple monitors, that does help. I have, like I said, a tiny office, so my two computers don't fit on my standing desk, which is a real problem. I see a question about accountability. So as I said in the beginning, I can't control what's happening. Whether they're in my class in person or not, I can provide them the tools to control themselves. I can provide them the inspiration to participate. But one big lesson I learned from emergency remote teaching is that I cannot control anything. All I can do is do my best to create an environment where they want to be there, where they feel loved, seen, respected, and successful. A question, can I just simply share? Absolutely, but then you can't necessarily see live. And I really like this drawing part for me.
This is so for me, when Elicia showed this to me yesterday, what got me so excited was that I feel like I'm in her classroom. Like this feels, from everything that I've seen, of all the options of, using screen shares or using, the digital whiteboards that are offered through different platforms, this makes me feel like she is in a physical classroom and I'm in that classroom with her. So to me, this feels the most connected. It feels the most natural. It makes me want to participate more than any other option I've seen. So I totally love it. I'm seeing a lot of questions for folks about like the process of story asking, and we're going to focus on that in a different session. We're also going to talk about, I guess in that session, we could talk about how you introduce story asking to your students. We meant to be just about the mechanics of this. So again, Elicia has this slide set as her virtual background. She has a green background behind her, a green wall. And so if you can get a green tablecloth to post, a lot of you guys are probably going to be doing these lessons from your classrooms and maybe not at home. So you can think about what you can set up in your classroom as like your virtual teaching area. Get a green tablecloth, get a green bulletin board background, just a piece of fabric, paint the wall green, but it's not necessary. And then we'll send you a template for this slide that she's created. And then the whiteboard, the reason that it's so important that, so you're not holding it, because if you were holding it up, it would be a lot harder for you to point to all the words, right?
Yes.
And if it were fixed, like if this was just a permanent whiteboard, then the background slide, if you ever wanted to show a full picture, you wouldn't be able to do that because, is that true? Because it wouldn't be
exactly. So if I moved away from, if I did this video or this background instead, you don't see the background. What you see is whatever is up here, and that might be useful for something, but it isn't necessarily what I want most of the time. I want a background with nothing. And I saw a comment if somebody wanted to see this without anything. So this is my wall. Super simple. It's just an it's painted margarita, which I really needed the day that I needed that project. So, and it's poorly painted, indicating the margaritas that I had while painting it. And then also, and I just have a couple of picture hangers. My house is not level, so nothing is level. I'm in a way over 100-year-old house, so it's just a whiteboard.
Okay, so you just got a whiteboard that has the little hangy things, and most whiteboards that you buy on Amazon are going to have that. That looks like it's probably like 24 inches by 18 inches or something like that.
Yeah.
36. Okay.
It's not, I mean, I used to take it when I taught outdoor ed, like I took it with me. So it's not that big.
So, but definitely if you are like, I love this setup, just like I love this setup, then you're going to want a whiteboard that you can hang up and pull down, hang up and pull down, because that is going to give you the most flexibility in your virtual classroom.
So I see a comment that says, if I prepare for virtual stuff, how does, like, I spend all this energy preparing for virtual stuff and then we're back in person. Guys, I totally hear you, and I recognize that as the truth. And also, teaching in person is so much easier and so much less time consuming in terms of prep, like, end of story. So, and the core skills of asking questions, eliciting details from your students, asking questions to get details, and then asking processing questions to make sure your students understand what you're saying are the same, whether you're in person or virtual. The core skills of making sure your student, or the framework of making sure your students get as much understandable input as they can in all the time, that doesn't change whether you're virtual or you're in person. So really focusing on speaking so that they understand, creating a community, having fun. Oh, speaking of which, everybody, brain break. Take your thumbs together. I learned this from Alina Filipescu. I'm not going to change my slide.
She was watching too.
I know. We're going to take your thumbs and you're going to draw a sideways figure 8 or an infinity sign and make it small and medium and huge.
I do want to say that I love that Elicia has chosen brain breaks that involve crossing the midline, because they're brain-based brain breaks, where this is your midline of your body. And so anytime you're crossing that gets the two hemispheres of your brain interacting, which is the purpose of brain breaks, really. I mean, other brain breaks can be fun, but those are the most effective ones.
And take a deep breath. I see people talking about how their students aren't answering questions, and I'll be honest, guys, I don't know what it will be like to start in the fall without having already established that, gosh darn it, you answer my questions, and already establishing that community. And part of my journey this summer is to be a student in a lot of different classes with teachers who are experts, to see how they do it, and then hopefully come back and share my learning with you. I don't know what that's
and one of those opportunities is next week, isn't it?
Next week, Express Fluency's Conference in the Cloud. Both Martina and I are going to be presenting. I'm going to be talking about assessment, and I'm going to be talking about Pear Deck. And
I think I just saw that they have 85 different presentations. I mean, that can't be right, but that's crazy.
It's huge, and it's a week, and it's going to be amazing.
And everything's available for 6 months too. So, so 85 is a lot, but
it's going to be ridiculous. And there's language classes, which I'm really excited. Brain breaks in L1. When they have the vocabulary, I do them in L2. We are not all Spanish speakers on this page, and I want to make sure that everyone is welcome and can participate. So super important, when I'm demoing something, I do it in L1 in our shared language. In my class, I'll probably say, okay, thumbs, in target language, thumbs, together, move, figure 8, like an 8, bigger, larger, like I will comprehensify it and simplify it. We will pop information about the conference in the cloud. And Martina, why don't you unpin me?
Okay, yeah. Okay, so a few things while I'm unpinning you. So lots of comments coming through. First of all, the mechanics, people wondering about the mechanics, we are going to send that to you in an email. If you're already on our email address, you will get it. It'll be probably in a couple days. It won't be right after this. If you are not already on our email list, so like if you didn't just get an email 2 hours ago saying, join us in 90 minutes, then make sure that you put your email address in the landing page link that we're sharing a lot. And I'll share it again when this is done. A lot of people are wondering about the glare on the whiteboard. Anytime that you have glare on something in a video, you can always fix it. It just means blocking the light source that's coming at you. So Elicia has a window in front of her. If she like closed the curtains, then that would eliminate the glare. Her room might be too dark, so then she might need to come up with some indirect lighting. So it's something that you'll have to work with in your physical space to get rid of the glare. But if you have a light source coming at the board, it's going to cause that. And then one other thing, I saw some really great ideas if instead of like actually hanging up the whiteboard, someone mentioned using an art easel. That would totally work if you just had an easel that you pulled in to your setup. It might be a little bit bulky to like work around because of the legs, but you could do that. You could put up flip chart paper or, even they have the whiteboard sticky paper. So any way that you can bring a board in and then remove it later on, that'll work and you'll still be able to have the same kind of setup. Oh, and a question about continuing with the story. We are not going to continue story asking this week. We are going to do that. I guess it probably won't be next week, right, Elicia? Because we'll have the conference in the cloud.
And I'm pretty sure I'm presenting during this time slot. One of us is, so it won't be next week. It'll be the week after.
Yeah. So
which
the week
of July.
We can do that. Oh, okay. Yeah. So we won't have a fun club next week, but in the next fun club, we're going to give you a good 2 weeks to digest all the information we're going to send out. And then in the next fun club, we'll actually go through story asking. And in the meantime, the story asking is going to look very similar to what it would look like in the classroom. So you can look at our Summer SOMOS Fun Club videos from last summer. Just think, instead of actors, you're drawing the story. So instead of giving students the visual support of actors to understand and help process the language, Elicia draws the story as the students add details. But we'll demo that for you in 2 weeks.
And I just dropped a link about a very specific, long blog post. If you want to jump ahead, more details about story asking online from my blog. We will have all of these sent to you, and I'll also make a post on the SOMOS Facebook page, which if you are with us right now, you are on the SOMOS group Facebook page, and you'll see it. Search hashtag #StayAtHomeFunClub. Or look in the units. If you haven't looked at the units, look at the units. There's so much information there. And I'll put all of the resources we find there for you. And it's 2:30 and we are trying to stay at an hour.
Yes.
If somebody has a babysitter.
Yes, that would be me. So really recap. First of all, conference in the cloud link. We will send that to you. It is not too late to register. We will get you hooked up with that. A lot of questions about starting the year. Again, we were just focused on story asking and just really the mechanics of getting set up for story asking. We did not talk at all about how to start the year. That would be a different conversation, and we are totally happy to have it with you. So someone asked about TPR. TPR is an awesome thing that you can do online. We would love to support you in that in a different episode. And we can also talk about the SOMOS Flex units in another episode. But as for today, we are out of time. So thanks for joining us, guys.
Thank you all so much.
And Elicia, you are so amazing. I just still can't believe how you were able to figure that all out. And I know that it was totally influenced by teachers like Diane Neubauer. And so I'm just so grateful for you and for our community and the, our broad language teaching community and the way that we have totally come together through all of this to support each other and figuring out this insanity that we are walking through.
Awesome. We're going to get through this, guys. It might not be pretty, but we are going to get through it and our students can acquire languages. Okay?
Yeah.
You all have a wonderful day. We'll keep checking these comments. Stay tuned for an email with resources and have a wonderful afternoon.